As for me, we'll see. The job's pretty grueling, and we'll just see how much longer I'm going to serve.
That was our interview in November with White House Chief of Staff and Indianapolis native Ron Klain, who indeed will be stepping down here in the coming days. We're going to talk about that with our panel. We're also talking about the news this week involving former VP Mike Pence and the impact of the classified documents found in his Carmel home amidst the ongoing investigations into our current and former presidents. Let's bring in our panel now to talk about all of this week's top stories. With us today here in the studio, former state party chair for the Indiana Democrats, Robin Winston, and 2016 Vice Chair for the Indiana Trump campaign, Tony Samuel, along with former Communications Director for the Indiana Democrats, Jennifer Wagner-Chartier, and former GOP lawmaker Mike Murphy. All right, Mike, I'll start with you and your reaction to the news this week involving Mike Pence and the documents found at his home in Carmel.
Well, I think a lot about the Mike Pence as I do the Biden documents. I don't think either one of them is a criminal. I think their staff was sloppy. I'm sure Mike Pence and Biden said, pack up my boxes, and had no thoughts about it afterwards. The problem with it all is it gives Donald Trump a get-out-of-jail-free card. There's no way, in my opinion, that the Justice Department can now prosecute Trump if they don't prosecute Biden or Pence.
We'll see what happens. Jennifer, your view from across the aisle here, and what does this mean as it relates to these investigations into President Biden and former President Trump?
Yeah, I agree with Mike. I think this gives former President Trump a bit of a free pass. I do think it also opens up a conversation that we should have. And I used to work for a federal agency that dealt with a lot of classified documents, material, into what we classify and how much we classify, because, you know, it may be the case that these were classified documents in someone's garage, but were they really? Do we need to have that conversation? Because, you know, it may be much ado about nothing. It may be overclassified.
Some lawmakers have mentioned that it could be a possibility. Tony, some reports this week from CBS News that Pence's aides didn't start packing up all of his files until after January 6th because of President Trump's insistence, according to these reports, that even after the election, everybody in the administration act like they would be there for another term still. Do you find that plausible?
Oh, I don't know. It sounded to me like trying to shift blame, and like some kind of political consultant or staffer said, hey, let's say this. I did see Mike Pence Friday on TV taking full responsibility, and I thought that's the right way to handle it.
And Robin, what's your response to this situation? Do you think the situation involving President Biden's classified documents had anything to do at all with Ron Klain's decision to step down right now?
I'll answer your second question first. No, I don't think that did. But I do think that we're going to go into a business here of classified documents, or us, and be able to help these folks on transition. The bottom line is that those mistakes were made. The difference is Donald Trump said, come and get them. I'm not going to give them to you. I'm not going to give them to you after repeated request. I think that's a big difference.
Mike, your thoughts on Ron Klain's departure? Coincidental timing, do you think, or do you think this helped speed up that decision for him?
Well, I have no idea, but I will tell you that the White House Chief of Staff job in either party is the toughest job in America. You're on the hot seat, you're blamed for everything that goes wrong, and your boss gets credit for everything that goes well.
He was there just over 2 years, I guess the longest serving initially selected chief of staff in a Democratic administration. Jennifer, an Indianapolis native who had a really up-close view of everything that's happened here these last 2 years.
Oh, and I can't wait to read the book, right? they all write them. I agree with Mike. I mean, look, this is the hardest job you could possibly have in any administration, at any level of government. He did it extremely well, got to shepherd through things that Joe Biden gets to take credit for, the Infrastructure Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. All of those things happened on his watch. And now I hope he gets to go do something much less stressful.
I think just about any job by comparison would be less stressful, right? We're also talking about the race for Senate today. Jim Banks already in the race. Mitch Daniels reportedly getting really close to a decision here as we record this segment on Friday. Earlier in the week, he went to Washington. He met with Senator Young and with others and gave Politico a pretty interesting quote here. He said, quote, "I'm not the least bit worried, honestly, about losing an election. I'm worried about winning it and regretting it for 6 years." He says, "I say this with great respect for those who do it, but you know that doesn't mean it fits me or fits me at this time of my life. So that's what this field trip to D.C. was all about. Tony, what's your reaction to that quote? Does that sound like someone who's not entirely sure about running, or does he still get in?
Well, I view this a little differently. When everybody started talking about him running for governor, I thought, why would he do that? He's been there, done that, and then that, he put a stop to that talk and then started considering, and I believe he is seriously considering running for Senate. I think he should just run for president. He has a voice
Of the United States?
of the
From
United
president,
States.
From Purdue to president of the United States?
When he flirted with it in 2012,
Right.
and he's well qualified. Nobody better qualified than I can think of. He's intellectually superior to most candidates. He's a visionary. He's got a good wit. He would come across at a time when folks need somebody that can bridge the divide and have the intellect to handle all the issues that are going on in the country. They're numerous.
Is this a noteworthy moment here? The 2016 vice chair for the Indiana Trump campaign saying Mitch Daniels should run for president?
I really think he should, and I think all of those people
This
that are...
year?
Oh, sure, and for the 2024, sure. I think all the people that are ginned up about him either running for governor or Senate, they're going to be, that's his base, and he can expand on that. He's got great national, name ID and connections. And then the other thing is, my wife worked for Mitch for 10 years, 2 years on the campaign, 8 years in his office in the governor, and was his general counsel the last year. So
The Trump team's been
plays
hitting
into
him
it.
hard here over the past few
They
years
have,
in the
and I
Club for Growth.
don't
Yeah.
think they should. But that's politics.
We'll see how it shakes out. Robin, your thoughts on that? Who do Democrats want to go up against in this race, depending, of course, on who ends up running from your party?
First off, that's breaking news here. You ought to break in tonight with that. The fact of the matter is we'll run a good candidate. People have reached out talking about getting ready to run on our side. We'll have a very strong candidate. Just this week, one of the Republicans, the only one that announced, wanted to restrict a woman's right to even go out of state to make a personal
walked that back
decision.
later and
well,
said-
I understand, but
Yeah.
he did say it first.
Talking
I
about
mean,
Jim Banks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jim Banks said that, and then he
Saying that
walked
he
it back.
actually wants to see national restrictions in place as opposed to a travel ban.
I understand.
But you're right, it definitely did create
So
a
you
lot
ask
of
who would like to
uproar.
run against, or like to run against somebody that's totally running against issues that matter for families in Indiana?
Jim Banks, it sounds like, who
He's the only
you're
candidate
saying
that-
you think
he's
you
the
have a
only
better
candidates
chance
announced
against.
so far.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I can just about guarantee that Mitch Daniels is not going to run for president or for Senate.
Didn't sound like it from that quote
He won't
gave
run for
Politico.
president for the same reasons he declined in 2012, because he could have beaten Obama in 2012. He's not going to run for the Senate because, number one, he'll be 75 going on 76 when he sits down in the Senate for the first time. He doesn't need this. There's a lot of things he can do and still have a national impact. He could run the American Enterprise Institute. He could run all kinds of think tanks in Washington if he has that inclination. He's got a brand new place in Naples. The media,
Which some of his opponents have pointed out. He's trying to run this campaign from Naples, they say.
but the other point to make is that somebody, I'm not going to say who, has been shopping around yesterday and today to the media in Washington a Mitch Daniels Oppo research file based on his presidency at Purdue. Now, I think he did a great job. He's a leader in national higher education, but nobody's perfect. I'm sure you could pick apart things he did at Purdue as well.
We'll see what happens there. Our thanks to the panel. They'll be back here at the end of the program. Coming up, the latest on a resolution at the State House that could eventually go to voters. Straight ahead, how it could change the way bail is processed in our state.